Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Defeating the Odds. I'm your host and companion through this journey, Jessica Singh. Today joining us is a true warrior, Dessidre Fleming, a woman who inspires many and is admired by many more. She shares her journey of being diagnosed with Microasia at a very early age in life and how she defeated the odds. Thank you so much, Dessidre, for making time for us and joining us this evening for an episode of Defeating the Odds.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And I mean, anything for you really, this initiative is really good. I mean, we need more such initiatives out there now more than ever. So anything at all.
Thank you. For us, truly, and I've known you since a very long time, and for all our viewers that are watching, Dessidre and I have always had professional interactions, and we've known each other a very long time, I would say 5 years, but we've never actually sat down and discussed her journey of defeating the odds, and I'm so glad to be doing that today with all of you and all of you watching it.
My pleasure, my absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. So Dessidre, please to tell us something about, where you grew up. I believe you grew up in Patna. How was it like? How was your childhood?
So, I mean, Patna is an urban town. It's one of the bigger major cities in India, but life over there is it's very different. It functions like a small town, and for me, it's always going to be associated with childhood. So my life there was, I was born there. I was there till I was 12 or 13 years old. So it was it was like a sheltered childhood. But also in that shelter, there was so much experience to draw on. I think as kids, we experience so many things that we keep within us. And as we grow up, that somehow starts to shape our thinking. Somehow we realize things from it. And that somehow helps us either become a better version of ourselves or, change who we are entirely. So I think in a lot of ways, my childhood days were very forming. They helped solidify certain things for me. I always wanted to write. I didn't know that I wanted to write books or something. I always wanted to write. So this is something that was inculcated within me as a child, and I'm so grateful that my parents didn't tell me, oh, go out and play with everyone else. I'm glad they didn't tell me that. So there were times when I would lock myself in my room and I would finish reading an entire book, and my family is like, oh, where has she gone? And then I come out in the evening and they're like, okay, she's finished the book. So stuff like that. For me, Patna will always be like this home sphere, this very sheltered, warming comfort zone that I would like to go back to every time I want a hint of nostalgia or something. So yeah, mostly that.
So Dessidre, please forgive me if I any which way, hurt or bring up any emotions that you wouldn't want to talk about. But here we are to celebrate your journey.
Not at all.
So Dessidre, you were diagnosed with something called Microasia, if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Microtia.
If you would like to tell us, what is Microtia and at what age were you diagnosed by it?
So Microtia is a genital disorder. So I was born with it, literally. Maybelline, I was born with it. So that's like the tagline. Anyway, on a serious note, it's a genital condition. I was born like this, and it's basically in Microtia. What happens is the formation of the ear is restricted. Either your external ear isn't formed or your internal ear also is not formed, and a lot of times it's not entirely, so it's half formed, you can still hear or something. In my case, it's called anosia Microtia because the internal as well as the external ear is not formed. So because of that, obviously there's hearing loss. But there's a joke that I crack that it's strange that I have hearing loss because I seem to hear everything better. But so that's the condition. And it's not what I would say. It's not a rare condition, but at the same time, it's not as common as whenever I remember when I was a kid, I would go to the doctors, and the doctors would say that, oh, this happens to a lot of kids. But when I think about it, okay, so this happens to a lot of kids, so where are those other kids? Like, I want to see those other kids. So it's not rare, but at the same time, it's not as common as you see everyone with it. And what I've learned over the years, like even like in these recent growing years, is it's not so much a disability, because there are people out there, and like it hasn't stopped me from doing anything. It hasn't restricted any sort of ability. So I wouldn't go to call it that, but yeah, it's at this point I think I just call it a genetic anomaly, for a lack of a better term, because there is nothing else to call it.
And that's why, Dessidre, like we have a lot more questions ahead, but I would just like to say this. That's why you're a true definition of defeating the odds, because I so relate to when you say this. You have met me, you know my journey as well. And that's what I always tell. If it's not stopping me from living life or doing anything I want to, how is it a problem, or how is it a disability? But you would relate to it. The sad fact is, every now and then you're going to bump into people who are going to make you feel like it is a problem.
Of course, and that's going to happen. That's life, that's being human, and every other person doesn't think as well as you do, or the same way that you do. And the thing is, and Jessica, I'm going to say this, so I've done a lot of these videos, and I've given interviews, and I've featured and all of that, and I will not say that I'm not confident in all of that, sense of self, all of that is there, but it's like you said, okay, every now and then there is someone who's going to come into your life or come up to you, and subconsciously or consciously, they're going to trigger something where you feel like, okay, maybe this is a problem. Maybe this is what's making me less than something, or maybe this is why I don't deserve something. So that is going to happen. That's happened to me also, more times than I would let on.
Completely relate.
Exactly.
So Dessidre, since you said it's a genetic disorder, at an early age, I'm sure you would have felt a lot of physical pain, because I'm sure medicines and doctors, etc. But was there a lot of emotional pain as well? Because were there a lot of questions? Were there a lot of tags that people would ask you or just put on you? I'm really sorry if anything.
No, not, please don't be sorry. Please don't be sorry. Okay, the strangest thing is, as a child, here again, major gratitude to my parents and to my family, mostly, for bringing me up in a sense that nothing's wrong with me inherently. So that's how I was brought up. And so as a child, I never went about doing things like, I have a deformed ear. I knew what the condition was. I remember asking my mother about it, like when I was still very little. I didn't know what to say, and I was like, why do I only have one ear? Or what do I tell people when I only have, like when they ask me why do I only have one ear? So starting out, the joke that my parents would tell me was, and it was just their take on, just be sarcastic, just say that you fell off the bed when you were a kid. And I would actually say that, it was a very innocent thing, and I was like, yeah, when I was a child, when I was a baby, I fell off the hospital bed, and this is how it happened. Growing up, later on, mom told me that I was born with it and all of that, and even then, because of the way they raised me, or because of the way they treated me at home, in my home environment, I never went about like, I have a deformed ear, or there were kids who would look at me from across the street and look at me peculiarly, or even in school, they sometimes when kids want to get the better of you, they'll be like, they'll go and give the most personal comments and personal remarks and stuff like that. So all of that happened, but for the majority of my life, even when I was a child, it didn't, bother me as such. There were times when I wouldn't get picked as the lead angel in a play, or when I wouldn't get chosen as the pretty girl in the play, and I would be made like some side boy who has wild hair and everything. So all of that would happen, and then I would feel like, is it because of this? Is it because of this? And I would ask my mom, and she'd brush it off, and I'd wonder about it myself. Yeah, exactly.
Because in your
that would happen. Yeah, you do, exactly.
Completely.
And there were times I think when I became a little bit more knowing, around 12 or 13 years old, was when there was this one or two instances. I think we were in the market or something, and this child just came up and was like, "Hey, isko dekho, iska ek hi kaan hai." I'm like, "What is he going on about? Like, what's the big deal?" And then his parents came and took him away and didn't even say anything. So I felt really annoyed. Like, how can a child, number one, like, how do you raise children like that? And I was very young to feel like that, but these were emotions that I felt even at that age in my life. But that was it. Aside from that, it never really hindered anything. Like, when I wanted to go out and try something, take a chance on something, it never hindered my perspective or my abilities or my belief. It may have hindered the other person who was looking at me and saying, okay, no, maybe she wouldn't be suited to this role or this role, and that's on them. That's not on
them completely.
Yeah, exactly.
So Dessidre, it's so wonderful to hear this, because sometimes we wonder, did it affect your confidence? Did it affect you emotionally? But it's so powerful to see this. So when you came out to this professional world, and for everyone out there watching this, Dessidre is an amazing writer. She is the editor at Scoop. She has written for Men's XP, Pop Exo, and so many other things. And honestly, we have to call her that please write an article for our brand. So she's in a position of power totally.
Oh my God. Please don't make me blush.
You are, and it's so beautiful. So, how was that experience, growing from that adolescent, young schoolgirl into a professional world where, how was the experience of your confidence, how you felt about yourself, and how are the people around you that, because the environment around us actually makes us feel the way that we do feel.
You're right. Yeah. Okay. I think this is the first or second time I'm speaking about this in an interaction. So I remember I used to love reading magazines, fashion magazines, lifestyle magazines. Like, I used to love reading them, and I would read the editor's note first of all, and I would be like, it would be so good to work for these people, or one day maybe write in a magazine, stuff like that. So that's exactly how I got my big break. I was in the mall. I was just browsing. Sephora had just opened in India. Sephora had just opened, and I was in the mall, and I was just looking at it, and my parents were outside, and they were like, "There's no way we're buying you anything from here." And I was like, "I cannot afford it, but just let me go and see it." So I went in, and just next to me was this fashion magazine editor, and I knew her because I used to read the magazines, I used to read the editor's notes, and I just went up to her and I told her that I've been reading the magazine, I follow this, that. She gave me her card and she told me, just why don't you come to my office on Monday? Wow. So I went to the office, and that's how I got my first big break. It was Cosmo, and it was so brilliant. But the thing is, in a way, now there are two sides to this. Okay, one is, it's really good when you're so ignorant about things in another world, because then you don't know what can or cannot stop you, what you can or cannot do, and you just have this open your sort of platform where you can choose whatever you want to do, and where you believe that you can do whatever you want to do. So that was the space that I was coming from, which was great, because then I wasn't limiting myself. But also, you've also been in this industry, you interact with these people. For the majority, even today, our media circle, our fashion circle, our lifestyle space, it's very, very, it's somewhere inherently focused on the way someone looks outwardly. This is, and personality even does not have much to do with it. It's just how you look outwardly, and this continues to be even to this day, even though we write so many articles of self-love and embracing how you look, etc., etc.
Well, that's the fact. We only see it and we only write it, but not a lot of us actually following it.
There's no practice, it's only preach. So when I entered, I remember I was this new girl in the Bay who was not from any other previous magazine background or anything. I didn't know anyone, I didn't know anything, and I just went in as this total loner into a space where everyone knew their fashion, beauty, how to dress a certain way, etc., etc. And there I was. So I wouldn't go to the lens of saying that it intimidated certain fellow colleagues, etc. But it did somewhere bother them to the extent where they would try to like pinpoint and poke on me like, how did you get here? That sort of air was always around. But yeah, and it would bring me down. I remember there was one time, like I was working really late, and I'm not a crier, and I'm so stoic in everything. But there was this one time where I just went into the washroom and I cried, and I was like, do I actually belong here? So that was like this one session. Yeah, and I did not want any of them to see me cry. So I was very particular that I will go to the washroom, I will cry it out, and I'm going to get back there and I'm going to do my work.
That's the odds, no matter what.
Exactly. So I did that, and then when I look back, it doesn't matter at all. But it's all part of who you are. It makes you who you are, and I think those experiences also taught me that if at all I ever get to that position, if I ever get to that place, I would never treat anyone like that. I would always, because that's how you give people a chance, and that's how you become someone. So yeah, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Where you are today, look at where you are. It's so amazing. You have no clue how many people. That's what absolutely. You don't know how many people you're inspiring out there, because Dessidre, no matter what anyone says, you just went after your dream. Not even about your dreams, as defeating the odds, but not a channel that is supporting just people who are doing very, very well successfully, but also people who are just being their true self, no matter what the odds said.
Yeah.
And that's amazing.
Thank you. I'm glad. I think somewhere when you realize that you have no choice but to just go ahead, there's no other way out, you just have to do that. So yeah.
Completely. I have a feeling you're going to relate to this. I've always felt like when you have something that you've experienced when as a child and anything people pulling you down or anything pulling you down, I think as soon as you grow up, I think there's this force of energy inside you to just do whatever you have to do to achieve what you want to. I think you just become like, there's two balls here and I cannot see here, or here I can only see my goal.
Yeah, you grow up feeling like there is no other option but to just keep, like you just have to. There's no other way. And it's not even about proving them wrong or, doing it for someone else.
Yeah.
Somewhere it's just that you want to prove to yourself that that was not it. You know what you are, and you're going to go ahead and do whatever you want to do.
If you don't mind me asking a question, when incidents happen where, like we said, every now and then there's someone or something that's going to happen that makes you just question, oh, am I good enough, or do I belong here, or many other emotions which would be very subjective to for everyone. How do you pull yourself back up? What is that thing that you say, no, I'm going to defeat this, or I'm going to get myself back up?
This is a hard one, okay, because a lot of times these are people in your life, or a lot of times that these are people who you want in your life, or you cannot, like somewhere they're affecting your circle. A lot of times this will be a person you love, your partner, or when you're choosing your partner. A lot of times this will just be the environment that you take up on a regular basis. And it's hard, okay? It's hard because at the end of the day, you're human, and energies somehow start to overwhelm you. You can gauge, okay, how the other person is feeling, what they're thinking. You can gauge that. So there was this one time where it really, really affected me. This was a relationship, and it was a very, very it was a serious relationship. It was a great relationship, and I remember when it started, I was like, this person, I always felt like this person was too good looking for me. For some reason, I always felt like that. And touch wood, I have such a strong set of friends, this circle, and they've always told me, like, what is wrong with you? Don't ever, like, what is wrong with you? You cannot think like that, because that's not true. But coming from where you're coming, that thought is going to be there somewhere in your head, like, maybe they're just too good for me, or maybe I'm just not good enough. And it felt great that we beat those odds, and it went forward. But then when it ended in a way where it left me wondering that maybe I wasn't good enough because they thought that there was something better out there. So when that happens from someone who you love or who is in your life, it really makes you question everything. So in that, when you're in that position, honestly, for the longest time, you will just sit there questioning yourself, questioning your worth, questioning why you're here. But ultimately, and this is the strongest thing you can ever do, is ultimately you just have to get back up and say, you know what, I am not going to let anyone make me feel like this ever. It's just, I don't know where it comes from. Maybe it just comes from a place where no one deserves to feel like that, no matter what their situation is. And so you just have to pick yourself up and say, you know what, I'm tired of feeling this way about myself just because someone else did something or said something or walked away. You just have to get up and say, I do not want to make anyone ever make me feel like this again. Like I don't think if someone loves you and is in your life, I don't think they will ever do something to make you feel less than you are. And that's the important takeaway. I think once you realize that no matter what you are, no matter where you're from, no matter who you are, what you look like, you are deserving of love, respect, all good things. Once you understand that, you will yourself walk away from anything and anyone that is not giving you that. And that will be one of the most difficult things to ever do, because you will be walking away from people you love. You will be walking away from perfect jobs and great packages and great positions and the best project ever. You will be walking away from a million things and more. But I mean, you will just have to do that.
And you will do it for yourself. You have to get back up.
You will just have to do
only for yourself.
Yeah, because in that moment you will realize that I have to choose myself, and nobody else deserves to make me feel like this, because I'd rather be alone and healthy and love myself than be around people who don't.
Who make you question if you are good enough or if you are enough.
Exactly.
Dessidre is, like I said, and I've said this, and I really believe this, you're a true definition of defeating the odds, and it's so beautiful to hear your journey. And if there's one message you'd like to give for everyone who watches this video, who is maybe going through something, maybe battling their odds and they're looking for courage, anything that you would like to say to them?
So, I think I read this somewhere or someone told me this, and it may be a cliche, but it's also the truest thing ever. When you're going through hell, you don't want to stop. You want to just get through it. So just keep going forward. When you feel like there is no other option but to go forward, that is the only way to go. I mean, you might feel like the world is like falling down on your shoulders. You might want to sleep. You might want to go to bed, cry, and not get up again. But you will get up again. It may take you one day, it may take you 2 days, it may take you a week, but ultimately you will get back up again, and you will go on to do what you have to do, because it's human nature. It's not in our spirit to ever give up, even when we've given up. Which is why we say like hope is all we have, because it literally is all we have when our back's against the wall, when there is nothing else to do, when we're down in the dumps. The only place to look is up. I mean, there is no deeper down to go. And it is not in our human spirit to give up, no matter what we say or do. So ultimately, we are only going to get back up and try again. And I think that's beautiful.
We all need to remember that. That's so beautifully said. So everyone who's out there, who's watching this and who's looking for courage, you cannot give up. You have to get out of hell and get into a better space just for yourself.
You just have to keep going. Just keep going till you're out of there.
Thank you so much, Dessidre, and thank you so much for sharing your journey of defeating the odds with us. I can't even tell you how inspired I am right now, and
thank you
for the positivity right now just to hear this. Thank you.
I'm so glad.
Thank you so much for giving us this time and doing this for us.